Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Fifth Floor, a podcast about creativity, art, and photography. My name is Athina, and I am your host. So I was thinking, what is it with art? Why do we like art? Why do we go to galleries and museums and exhibitions? Why do we find street art interesting? Why do people pay to buy art? Why art is important? Or is it? And if it is not important, maybe that is why it is important? And at the same time I was thinking again, why do we create? Why do we have that need? Where does that need come from? So today we're going to dive into three big questions. Why is art important? Why do people seek to have art in their lives? And why do we create in the first place? Maybe these three questions are kind of interrelated. Maybe there is one universal answer. It took me a minute to decide how to start this, to be honest, but I think I will start with the fundamental question of why do we create? Short answer, because we have to, and a little bit longer answer, because there is something inside us that needs to come out, to process joy, grief, love, injustice, or to heal, to tell stories no one else is telling, or retell stories in our own unique way, to make sense of the world, for the egoistical reason that we want to leave a trace of being here, to give beauty or truth a form, to make our spaces more beautiful. Sometimes we don't even know why, only that we cannot do otherwise. I guess we create because it is only human. Many artists feel a deep inner pull to create despite everything, despite fear, doubt, failure, hardship, or even the lack of external validation. Often, artists see what others don't. They notice beauty in broken things, they feel the invisible threads between moments, they sense emotions, tensions, or stories that haven't been told yet. They perceive the possibility hidden inside the ordinary. Creating becomes a way of making the invisible visible, giving form to the unseen, the felt, the intuited. Many artists create to explore the unknown, what they don't yet understand about the world or themselves, what it feels like to be alive right now, what could exist if they dare to imagine it. Art becomes a conversation with the unknown, not to control it, but to meet it with openness and wonder. Creating gives meaning, voice, and presence to what otherwise might stay buried or lost. It is a form of survival, of defiance, of love. And that is why artists create, despite everything. And these creations need to exist because someone may see them and feel less alone. They may reflect a part of life no one has seen that way before. They honor something real, even if no one understands it yet, and they kind of keep the creative lineage alive. And why that is important? Because primarily is life-saving for the creator. And then, in a world that often tells us to consume, stay quiet, or fit in, creating is an act of courage, of resistance, of hope, and that is always important. And that is kind of the creator side. But what about the observer side? Why do people seek art and beauty in their lives? My guess, for the exact same reasons that people create: to connect, to heal, to identify a piece of themselves, to understand themselves, to feel something, to feel less alone, to learn, to see something beyond what they know, to connect with the unknown of what is yet to come. And that is where I find that the importance of art lies, in connection and in the universal need for understanding and healing. So why art is important? I could make a list of many important reasons. Art preserves culture and history. It lets us express things that words alone cannot. It supports emotional and mental well-being. It inspires critical thinking, fuels imagination, has the power to spark social and political change. It can bring beauty into our everyday lives and even hold economic and educational value. And somewhere here, maybe it's worth mentioning a few artworks that served as vehicles for social and political change. First is Picasso's Guernica, his massive black and white painting, which depicts the horrors of war, specifically the bombing of the Spanish town Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. It became a powerful anti-war symbol worldwide and brought global attention to the atrocities of fascism. Then we have Banksy's Girl with a Balloon, a simple street stencil of a girl reaching for a balloon. Banksy brought street art into global art conversations and challenged ideas of ownership, capitalism, and the art market, especially when a version of this work shredded itself after being sold at an auction. And finally, we have Dorothea Lange's Migrant Mother, a photo of an impoverished mother during the Great Depression. It shaped public perception of poverty and led to government aid during the economic crisis. But you know what? At the end of the day, and beyond any list, the true importance of art lies, in my opinion, in the relationship it fosters between the creator, the creation, and the observer. Each person brings something different to that interaction, a memory, a feeling, a question, a revelation. And in that moment of connection, something powerful happens. New meanings are formed, emotions are stirred, and perspectives are shifted. Art matters because it creates space for empathy, for understanding, for inspiration. It allows us to see ourselves and each other more clearly. And in a world that can often feel fragmented and disconnected, that kind of connection is not just important, it is essential. And to close this with a brief story, at some point in this life, I volunteered to help at the Royal Photographic Society exhibition. So I was there for a fair amount of time. People would come and go, and they would talk to us about their experience with the photos and the exhibition as a whole. What left a lasting impression on me was how differently each person responded to the work, how particular photographs spoke to them, and the personal stories they shared in response. It reminded me of something I always try to keep in mind, that art creates connection and it heals in different ways for different people. And just to conclude this, a world without art would be a quiet, plain nothing. There would be no music, no paintings, no stories, just the basic functions of life without creative expression. Buildings, clothing, and spaces would be purely practical, lacking color or design. People would have fewer ways to express emotions, explore ideas, or connect with others on a deeper level. Life would go on, but without beauty, imagination, or emotional depth. It would feel empty, functional, but not truly fulfilling. I mean, okay, we would still survive, but we wouldn't live in any meaningful sense. Because art isn't just decoration, it is what makes us human. Okay, but before you go, and if this has helped you in any way, please send it to one friend who needs to hear this today. And never forget in your life that we have a new podcast every Wednesday. To visit fifthfloor.me and subscribe to our newsletter to get updates. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and share if you liked and leave a review. If you're listening via YouTube, please subscribe and share any topics you wish us to discuss or to expand on more. Okay, bye for now and thank you for being here. See you in the next one.